local people. You have these, quote, agents. I don't know. They're not police. They're not trained as officers. They're not National Guard. They have not been trained. They're not authorized by any branch of government, with the exception of the executive branch of our government, is sending these untrained, unskilled, if you will, people into cities like Minneapolis, Chicago, Los Angeles, and other cities around America. There were 4,000 ICE agents as compared to 600 police officers in Minneapolis. So they overwhelmed the local police, and they did not ask. Minneapolis didn't ask for assistance in handling any crime. They didn't request from the federal government any assistance, nor did the president ask Congress to approve the hiring, the deployment of ICE agents. They don't report in a systematic way to anyone. They are not responsible to anyone in authority other than the President of the United States. And that's not the role of the executive branch. It is not legal by any stretch of the imagination. And certainly it is an unauthorized in terms of the role of the three branches of government. It's an unauthorized move. This is fascism at its best.
Well, let me.
This is a takeover, and it follows the model that you and I know about. When you have an authoritarian government being moved into place, you take control of the military. You can't control the existing standing military. You create your own. This is what the ICE group really consists of, an alternative military force that is not authorized by the government, if you will. It's not funded appropriately with approval from the United States House of Representatives. It is a rogue move by the president, who has decided with his team of oligarchs to create a dictatorship.
Well, let me.
Found in other dictatorships across the world.
Well, let me ask you this, because you're right. I mean, and indeed, at the Winter Olympics, uh, people in Milan are protesting the presence of ICE. They are there ostensibly as security. And there are posted now, this is becoming an issue in Ireland. Seamus Culleton, a 20-year resident who has been in the United States. He's married to an American, Tiffany Smith, has lived in Boston. He was pulled over for a traffic violation. They put a new wrinkle in the case after 5 months there was a warrant for his arrest for drug possession, distribution, something like that. Of course, after 5 months, now that his case is making some noise, you would think something like this would happen, right? But he was able to get through to an Irish radio station, Reverend Wilson, and he described his conditions, which are horrific. He said, "We're packed in like sardines. I don't even get an hour of sunlight a day. We're served children's meals. People are starving, and people are committing suicide," for example. So now this was brought before the Irish Parliament. This is becoming a worldwide issue. And this is now happening. Um, we're seeing the drawdown in Minneapolis, right? But now Wired Magazine has reported that 150 spaces in the United States, near elementary schools, medical facilities, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, they are going to open up spaces with street agents and lawyers. I mean, so there is no drawdown. There is a ramp up.
Yeah.
So I mean, and not just in time for the midterms, because I don't know if they're going to leave because they've been funded for years. That's what I don't think many people understand, that they've been funded for several years. They are okay. This funding fight is about other agencies that are around that to try and use the leverage that other agencies have. And Congressman Jackson will be on to explain what's going on. But what they're doing, my goodness, now we're going to see this all over the country. They're going to open up detention centers in Texas, Arizona, Georgia, for example, and other places. They're planning to house, those centers will house more than 90,000 people. What is this?
Well, and you've talked about this on several programs for some time, this is a move by people to take over and eliminate our, our democratic form of government, to eliminate this, what we thought of as a balance of power, where you had checks and balances. So you would not have a one person or one department making all of the decisions. We have an elected form of government. ICE agents are not elected by anyone. Those people who are in the executive branch don't run for office. The only person who's running for office is the president, vice president. Everyone else is selected by the president and supposed to be confirmed, agreed to by the Senate. That did not happen. Pam Bondi and all the people over the DOJ. You have people that have no experience, no capability, in charge of what we thought were the departments of education, Department of Defense, the Justice Department. That's not designed to be the president's personal law team. It was designed to represent and protect people all over the country from persons trying to avoid or ignore our Constitution. And so now we see the limits of how one department, who is now controlled by those companies, this is a corporate takeover, if you will, of America.
Well,
and we're sitting there watching this, not understanding when we start putting all this money into elections, they're no longer controlled by individual voters. You have people being overwhelmed with commercials. Who's paying for these commercials? We can look at it in Chicago, in a congressional race where people in a local state and city living in a particular congressional district are supposed to be able to select their representative in Congress. And now you have congressional candidates being funded at astronomical levels, and you know this as well as I do, so that if you pay for my commercial, if you pay for my campaign, I am then loyal to you, not to the people, not to the people who are supposed to vote for me. And the people are not voting beyond 40% in most congressional districts in a midterm election because they don't know who these people are. They really haven't met them. They've not heard from them because there's no requirement that they come to your little town hall meeting, your after church meeting to hear from. So now you see, we're beginning to see, as you say, this administration, and it's not this one man called Trump, it is a whole group of background people that are funding, controlling, and directing how this nation, who will run this nation, and how it will be run.
Well, hold on. Stay right there because we've got Congressman Jonathan Jackson on with us, who has always, he's been saying that this is a co-equal branch of government, which you know better than anyone as a lawyer, Reverend Dr. Wilson Esquire. Congressman Jackson, it's the government is shut down for why?
Let me continue.
Love you.
I'm honored to be on the call. My faves, soul sister fighters, they've lost control of the Republican caucus. They cannot bring their bills to the floor in a more challenging way now because the president, they're afraid of him. It's fear that's driving this. We've had now 3 discharge petitions where the minority party has taken the lead and overruling the Speaker of the House because the Speaker cannot control the majority of his caucus. And I was at the presidential inauguration in January of 2025. And at that moment, it felt as if it was a takeover, not a transition. And what Reverend Wilson just said about a corporate takeover, everything is being done in corporate interest. They're overruling the administrative agencies, which are supposed to have the final say because they have more experts. That would be the rulers of the EPA, the Department of Education. Now all of this is going straight back to the president and to the United States Supreme Court. Simply put, the Speaker of the House has lost control of the Republican caucus. and the president has put fear in many of his members, and so they won't go against him.
But Congressman, now as we're looking at this drawdown, which Reverend Wilson has been describing this just so brilliantly, because Rainbow Push has been up there, and you have been in Minneapolis as well. That we saw the border czar come out and say, now we are ending operations, and Operation Metro Surge is over. But now we're seeing from Wired Magazine and the Washington Post that there are 150 places in states, all in almost all 50 states, where they are opening up ICE centers, not just detention centers, but where they're going to deploy street agents. They're going to deploy lawyers. That's happening at the same time. You have more than $600 million that's been put in the creation of these detention centers since the beginning of the year. What is happening? I mean, does Congress have any control over that?
Well, actually, the zoning would come from local authorities. And there are, as I understand, 73,000 plus people that are now in detention facilities. And local authorities have to intervene and stop granting them permits in order to build. That's how you have to curtail that. The money, unfortunately, has been fully funded by the department, by the United States Congress, and the one big ugly bill. So it's out of the federal hands. It's now into the municipal hands. They have to stop the permits, and local communities have been doing that, and that has been a very good tool.
Well, Congressman, what do you? Oh, yes, I'm sorry.
As Congressman Jackson said, the cities, counties, and states have to work together to prevent this from happening. And a lot of things you can say about our city, county, and state, they are clear, at least in Illinois, Chicago, and Cook County. We didn't ask for you. We don't need you. You're not policing. To send those agents here, it is just inappropriate. It is illegal and unwarranted. And so people have to begin to stand up. And I want to congratulate Congressman Jackson, because he's one of the few members of the U.S. House of Representatives that publicly speaks out. The rest of them, what are they, the silent 434? I don't understand. Why are you so afraid?
And Reverend Wilson, I want to add to that. I want to say that Holman isn't drawing down, that the people of Minnesota kicked ICE out. That was not voluntary. Bonboni, whatever that fool is with that long, crazy jacket, he got kicked out. When they put up old grandpa-looking Holman, trying to draw a fake tear, he got kicked out. That was not voluntary, as if it was a drawdown. No, they got kicked out. They started a fight with some Vikings in 20 below zero weather, and they got turned away. I also have to give a shout out to our mayor here in the city of Chicago, Brandon Johnson. He took some positions that were not very popular, but they were extremely ethical, and he made sure that ICE did not have a footprint in the city of Chicago. And they sent in the United States military, man. We never forget, President Trump sent in the United States military into South Shore. That is not to be forgotten or taken lightly.
Well, stay right there, because Spooky on Sprinkle, I hope you listen. I think you're one of my people from AM 950 Radio up in Minneapolis, St. Paul. She said, be clear, ICE isn't gone in Minneapolis. The Whipple building, the federal building, is still operational, and they are still abducting and holding people. Thank you so much for that. I see you. 866-594-HOPE, 866-594-4673. Spooky on, why don't you call us? I want to hear what your thoughts are. Because much has been made of the ending of Operation Metro Surge. In the meantime, there is a surge all across the country. What do you think about that, everybody? What happens when it comes to your backyard? Back in just a minute.
Sometimes the way seems so very hard, so much so.
Oh, wow.
Your opinion counts. 1-866-59.
Did you call him Grandpa?
Yeah, that's what he did.
Oh.
He looks kinder and gentler than the guy that was.
Bovino, boy.
Bovino is nuts.
Boy. He takes it to another level. But he means to. That's why they brought him here. He's from Texas.
Mm-hmm.
They didn't let Illinoisans touch this, and Minnesotans either. They bring people who are looking who otherize everybody in these communities. But I think now people are beginning to see something. But I'm wondering what the impact is going to be, because apparently they're building a detention center in Georgia for children. 1,500 children. I'll send the TikTok video to you, because this is an older white gentleman who lives in the community. He said, "We're a small town. This is not what we do here." He said, "This is a concentration camp for kids." That's what he called it.
That's what it is.
They're taking kids away from their parents.
Oh,
What is that? I cannot even imagine that. I'd be traumatized for life if that had happened to me.
Well, and that's what's happening. We're creating a generation of children who will need counseling for the rest of their time on Earth. This is, I just look at the children in Gaza. They will never recover from those bombs being dropped. Parents snatched away. Homes just literally destroyed. Schools bombed and eliminated. I met one of the guys that was in detention here in Broadview. And he didn't even stay that long.
How are you?
He said it was just ungodly, inhumane.
Well, and now it's coming at election time, Congressman.
Oh, yeah.
Well, I'm going to ask Congressman Jackson what the end game is with the House of Representatives. What's this going to mean?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Hello.
Okay.
Hi. Hello.
Yes. What's your name?
This is Dion.
Hi.
Okay.
Okay.
Hey, everybody. Keep Hope Alive with Reverend Jesse Jackson. I am Santita Jackson. We've got Congressman Jonathan Jackson from the 1st Congressional District of Illinois. Reverend Dr. Jeanette Wilson from Rainbow Push. She's going to preach this morning. Where are you going to preach, Reverend Wilson?
Kenwood United Church of Christ on 46 on Greenwood.
All right, all right, all right. Oh, we love it.
Dr. King visited when he came to Chicago.
Okay.
From that church.
Okay, we love that, which means that's where Reverend Jackson was when he was in seminary. So now we're joined by, of course, Attorney Darrell Jones, one of the foremost voting rights advocates in the United States today. He's chairman of the Transformative Justice Coalition. But before I pivot back to Congressman Jackson to ask him about what the end game with this shutdown is, Spooky-on reached out. I'm sending you so much love up there in Minneapolis. How you doing, Spooky-on? Spooky-on, you there? Yes, I can now. How are you?
I'm all right. How are you?
Great, great. It's great hearing your voice. You said that that they're still there in Minneapolis.
Yeah, they're definitely still here. Like all the publicity surrounding it, just like a piece of people who aren't directly, affected by this, because like Minnesota's a large state, right? Like metro is one area, and then there's like rural areas, and they're very, very highly focused in any areas where there's, quote unquote ethnic population, right?
Mm-hmm.
And not only are they still kidnapping people and holding people, they're also still releasing people, out in the dead of night with like no jackets. It's so cold here. It's Minnesota, so we're very north, and it gets very frigid out. There's no coats, no phones, no wallets, and there's an entire organization that's been formed as a result of this called Haven Watch, where people will go out there and they have resources for the people who are just being released with no resources. It's really quite barbaric, actually.
So what is the community doing? I mean, when you hear all of the national media saying that, and when you hear Tom Homan say, okay, this is over, we're out, thank you very much, we've gotten everything under control, we're gone. What does that say to you and the rest of the community?
We have what we what we're used to is like a fall spring. So right now it's about 40 degrees outside. This is equating it to the weather, and it's like, oh wow, the snow is melting. It's getting better, but like we know from living here that like you can get snow well into April. So we're not done. We're not done patrolling the streets. We're not done blowing whistles. We're still standing guard in communities. We're not believing it because we'll believe it when we see it, right?
Oh yeah. So Spooky Ann, I love your name. What do you want us to know? What doesn't the rest of America know about what's happening in Minnesota?
People to know that ICE is coming soon to a city near you. It's the time to like you fight fascism with solidarity, and you do so by connecting with your other community members, coordinating supply outposts. So that way, people who can't work can get what they need, and then also mutual aid. That's a big one because a lot of people can't leave their homes to go work. Some like a lot of people are keeping their children at home. They can't go to school, but they still need groceries. They still need like daily necessities. So it really, the federal government isn't taking care of us. They're just taking all of our tax dollars and pouring them into war instead of taking care of people. They'd rather spend billions of dollars on detention facilities than fix the housing crisis, like this crisis. That's I just think that it's time. It's time to depose the government, and I'm not sure why it hasn't happened yet. I would like to know that.
Oh, okay.
Is continue coming together as a community and caring for each other. And like shout out to Smith and Kitten, who is a Minneapolis-based adult store. They're really stepping up and coordinating care and help for these communities. I would like to say that it's unprecedented, but really it's America, right? So everybody should have seen this coming. And just because like you're white, like you may be white and you didn't see it because like you're too busy living in a fictional life, doesn't mean that it's not happening. So like awaken to what's happening around you, pay attention because you're next.
Spooky Ann, you know what? I'm sending you so much love. I hope you will meet me on AM 950 radio. The Voice of Progressive Minnesota. I'm on from 6 to 8, but we're going to be recording this afternoon on the Santita Jackson Show YouTube channel, which is where we are right now. And keep in touch with me, please. I'm sending you so much love. Congressman Jonathan Jackson. Okay. What did you hear?
And also a shout out to Brother Don Lemon to now start dragging journalists into courts to try to further expand this campaign of fear to stop people from reporting the news. We're now looking at a shutdown from clean information coming out of the Bureau of Labor Statistics. So we really don't know the true health of the economy. We're looking at the polling data showing the popularity of the United States president. That's now been removed. So you don't see how far the people's resistance has gone and how unpopular the president is. So there's a campaign of fear across all these institutions. It's time for people to stand up and they have to resist. And so those great communities like Minneapolis, they've organized themselves. There's a lesson to be learned about Minneapolis. They're tracking license plates numbers. They've got signal group chats that are identifying unmarked vehicles that have been rented, that have been in previous ICE raids. And so they have resisted and they're fighting back. And the only thing to do is for the people to come out. People still have the power to resist what's going on in this country.
Well, Attorney Darrell Jones is a former prosecutor. And I'd like to hear what you, as a prosecutor, where does all of this go? I mean, now the mayor of Minneapolis is saying, wait a minute, you have cost us a lot of money, a lot of resources, but are there civil suits coming, criminal suits coming, as far as you could tell, as a former prosecutor? What do you see coming down the pike?
Absolutely. There should be some civil suits that will be coming, that should be coming. Some of the questions that still need to be answered is about qualified immunity and whether or not the ICE officers and the Customs Border Patrol agents that are there whether they have qualified immunity for the actions, meaning that the actions that they take against the residents, these American residents that they're detaining, that they're, some unlawfully, unconstitutionally detaining, whether or not there's any liability that rests on the shoulders of the ICE officers, the ICE agents, and the Customs Border Patrol agents that are doing this. So that's definitely going to be litigated. And when we start, Santila, just looking at it from the court structure side of it and the cost of what's going on here, because we have all of these stressors that are on the court system as well. Because when you start detaining people the way that these agents have, we have what we call these habeas corpus matters, meaning that they're challenges that are brought to the court system saying that you're holding my body illegally, and I demand to have a hearing on the illegality of you holding all of these bodies. Well, that overwhelms the court system because of the number of cases of people that they're detaining, and they have to get into the court system. So you have this influx of all of these cases for habeas causes, and of course that comes at a cost to the state and to the federal government, depending upon where the habeas is brought in, state court or federal court. And the question, then becomes one of cost. It becomes one of the stress that's put on the court. It becomes one of just a lot of questions as to a lot of the stressors that are brought in completely to what's occurring. So in looking at this, you add to that the civil cases that may be brought in to challenge to see what the liability is for ICE agents and CBP officers, agents, for the actions that they've been taking in Minneapolis and other places around the country. So that's going to be a big one as to watch all of this unfold.
Congressman Jackson, where do you see this going? I mean, do you see things, if ICE are being deployed, lawyers and street agents, if they're being deployed to 150 places all across the country, do you see chaos or do you see people organizing?
Both. Right now, the president is leading a campaign of chaos and fear. I think with Pam Bondi, the president is making it look left while he goes right. He knew that she was inappropriate, but it takes these Epstein files off of the headlines again. He's deploying ICE. As long as that's the headline, it distracts from the releasing of the Epstein files. There was an act of Congress. We passed a bill, 434 people to versus one in opposition to releasing the files. And then they released 3 million files. First she said she saw it, then Pam Bondi said she didn't see it. Then she said everything's out, that's 3 million files, nothing else to look for here. And then full pages and hundreds of thousands of pages are redacted. And then lo and behold, another trove of pages. It says another 3 million papers that have not been released. And the court order in the United States Congress, the people have said, release all the files, and they still won't. And now, from what we do see, it is so disgusting, it's so torrid, it's so rancid, it's so immoral. When you begin to hear more about the wealthy people that are a part of this, so he's doing everything to protect his friend, the president, not stand by the survivors of sexual assault, and this level of indecency amongst these people that are so wealthy in academia and finance at the top of all the industry, it would shock your conscience, and it's dripping out little by little. I'm talking about it's already rolling through the highest levels of society in Europe, and we've only had one person indicted, prosecuted in the United States of America for this pimping. I don't even like calling him the Epstein files. It sanitizes what happened. These girls were into coercion, sex trafficking, sex brokering, into pimping, into molestation, and ultimately you're going to find there's going to have to be some murders in there as well. And it shocks the conscience what they were doing to the little girls and little boys. Mm-hmm.
Well, no one is. Do you know what independent media are talking about this, Congressman Jackson and Reverend Dr. Wilson and Attorney Jones? They are. Corporate media, legacy media are not touching this. Congressman, do you see? Uh, can this be held back? Because you see your former colleague Marjorie Taylor Greene. It's like she's been unshackled. She's talking about it. Thomas Massey is facing. They've poured millions of dollars into his challenger, and yet he continues to push. He and Ro Khanna have said we're going to name names. They started doing that. Do you see this moving forward?
Absolutely, and they've increased our security budget because the level of threats for people that are speaking out. So there is true panic, and they are afraid of what's coming out in these documents. But the young ladies deserve to be heard. They deserve to be believed, and it's a challenge. And the president is going on this campaign to overwhelm the break of U.S. law. I mean, Congress passed it, and he won't release the files. And you know what he said? He said simply that a lot of people will get hurt, that there's nothing else to see here. And Lutnick, his Commerce Secretary, he said, "Oh, there's nothing here. I just took my whole family out to see to have lunch with Epstein, Bill Gates, Wexler of like Intimate Apparels or Victoria's Secrets." And it goes on and on. It just doesn't stop. I'll be glad when they get it out. I'll be glad when the women receive justice. It's disgusting, Cynthia.
Well, some of your colleagues, as they've come back from the files, Dropsite News has done such tremendous reporting on it. Their comments, even Republicans, there's Senator Lummons who said, "You know what? I did not think anything of releasing the files before." She said, "Now release everything. This is disgusting." And one of your colleagues on the House side, "These are a bunch of sick blanks." I said, "Wow, this is getting ugly." And you've resonated with Spookian up in Minnesota. She says this is a distraction from the Epstein files. Congressman, is that what you think?
100%. I've had a chance to see some of those files. I don't even like talking about it. It shocks the conscious. Sometimes you wish you can unsee some things that you've seen. Like, it's like, oh, I mean, there are children and these women came forward. They had the courage. And they're simply saying, release the testimonies of the witnesses for the investigation. Cynthia, millions of people, they've had 1,000 people in the Department of Justice going through redacting these documents. They've been pulled off of work on fraud and other things, other crimes against the federal government to simply start redacting files. Why? What's the secret? What are they hiding? You mean Miss Maxwell? Only one person was indicted, convicted, and she was a female. We see what's going on here. She gets her, after she's been convicted, the head of the Department of Justice goes and upgrades her prison as a child sex offender. She gets her living conditions upgraded and incarceration. Everybody knows that that's unprecedented. And the people on the Republican side, my colleagues, they seem like such normal people, but this is so indecent. And when somebody in the White House on February 5th, what's that, going on 10 days ago now, puts up a picture of the former president and first lady depicting them as animals, and no one is held accountable. It's been 10 days. Nobody's been fired. Only 7 people in the Senate and 5 people in the House of Representatives have stood up and spoken out against it and given any sort of rebuke. Consider we're going into something very, very ugly right now. And you got the person that's going to be for the Undersecretary of State. What's his name? James Early.
Yeah.
That is truly a white nationalist and a pure racist, saying that people are trying to replace whites and other things, and there's something different between the white church and the black church. Well, hell, whites could always enjoy church in America. Blacks couldn't. But yeah, our church service is louder and we shout more. We have something to shout about. We've been oppressed. What is wrong with these people?
Oh, well, let me just say this. Reverend Jeanette was. Well, let me tell you something. You've exploded. This is exploded on the timeline. You know what? Reverend Wilson, Attorney Jones, people, congressmen, they want to talk about these Epstein files, Jeremy. That's all they want to talk about now. Now that we've opened the door, they're like, no, 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 this is a distraction. Americans want to know. And let me tell you, don't sleep on independent media. Independent media have been reading the files, and they've been trying to lift up the black ink. And underneath the black ink, Thomas Massey said there is white out ink. And they're trying to get up under there. But what they have seen, as the congressman says, it just shocks the conscience. It's hard. It's hard to put our arms around this. 866-594-HOPE, 866-594-4673. I love you, Congressman. Reverend Wilson, I got a minute for you. Did Reverend Wilson leave? She might have, because she has to preach this morning. So stay right there. Oh, well, you know what? Just stay right here, because I want to get some closing thoughts from you on the other side of the break. Hey, spooky on everybody up there in Minneapolis and throughout Minnesota, the Progressive Voice of Minnesota. That is my home station on AM 950 radio. I hope that you will join me from 6 to 8 every morning. But I record this afternoon on the Santita Jackson Show YouTube channel, and we're streaming there right now. Hello, everybody. Sending you so much love. Let me let you say hello to Jeremy before we go to break. Hey, back with Keep Over Live with Reverend Jesse Jackson in just a few minutes.
Coming up, we'll have closing thoughts from Reverend Jesse Jackson right here on Keep Over Live.
My name is Whitney Allen.
Wow.
My husband Ryan died. We never thought.
Reverend Wilson?
Yes, ma'am.
Oh my gosh. Well, we're still talking on YouTube. Independent media, Daryl, have been all over this Epstein story. And I want you to know the things that they have pulled out.
Get your free quote at ethos.com/term. That's
it's just it's unspeakable.
Are you a fraud?
And the thing is, they do have another thought coming if they think that all of these stories are going to obscure that. That's not what's going to happen. People want to know, and now they just feel lied to. They absolutely don't trust it. They don't trust the government. They snatched Thomas Massey's mic from him at a Republican dinner, Jeanette.
Wow.
Oh yeah. And they poured $3.5 million into his opponent. Heaven knows. I hope he wins.
Money coming from APEC into
races
in Illinois. I mean, big
well,
dollars.
into the Danny Davis race, for example.
Danny Davis, the second congressional district. I mean, they're trying to take control of every branch of government in case this move for anarchy doesn't work. They have to have their people in place in this midterm.
Well, I tell you what, the interesting thing, though, is Minnesota and Chicago should have shown you how Americans get down. Okay?
Oh, yeah.
Americans are a different group of people now. We believe that this is a government of, for, and by the people. And now I think Americans are going to have to show out, and make that happen nonviolently, and which is what we have been doing. Thank you, Dr. King. Thank you, Gandhi. Thank you, Reverend Shuttlesworth. Thank you, Reverend Abernathy. Thank you, Reverend Lowry. Thank you, Andrew Young. Thank you, Reverend Jackson. Thank y'all. Hosea Williams, James Orange, Reverend Jim Lawson. Thank you. Thank you, Fannie Lou Hamer. Thank you, Rosa Parks. Thank you, Claudette Colvin. All these people changed America. Bayard Rustin. They did it nonviolently. And people are in that tradition. But some of the stories, you know what, Daryl? They won't let me follow anyone else on X. But that's all right. I'm going to get more people, and everybody join me on X. But I'm on Upscroll now too. Have you been on there, Jeremy? That's the new TikTok, because people are getting Upscrolled. 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 And you should go there because now certain words, if you take a certain stance on the Middle East, you're getting cut. You're getting cut. And so people are coming up with alternative spaces. How much time will we have when we get back? Because I want to give it to the two.
2.5, close to 3.
Okay. Oh, Reverend Wilson, I can give you 90 seconds.
Thank you so much.
Well, hey, you know how it is. Since you pushed Jonathan up to he said, "Look, my poor brother, this is all a lot for him. We don't do all this. I think you all have to understand we are church kids, okay?
Absolutely, absolutely.
We don't.
I gotta go like right now.
Oh, I know. But I'm gonna let you give your closing thoughts. When you hear my voice, I gotta go.
Okay.
And Daryl, I got you, and I got you and Zach Roberts. And Daryl, Zach was up in Minnesota.
Oh yeah, had him on the show.
He just got back.
Okay.
So, but as Spooky-on just said, they're still up there in full effect, which I kind of thought.
Stand by.
We want to hear from you. Please email your questions.
You want a hairpin?
To Reverend Jesse Jackson.
2, 1, you're live.
Keep Hope Alive with Reverend Jesse Jackson, 1-866-594-HOPE. Join us at Rainbow Push every Saturday at 50th and Drexel and on the Word Network and on rainbowpush.org and on social media so that you can be part of the Saturday morning forum from 10 to 11 Central Standard Time. I got 90 seconds for you, Reverend Dr. Wilson.
Well, I think that we have to become a people of faith. And I know that in some communities it looks like there's no hope. You see your situation, your snap's been cut, you don't have a kind of job that pays a livable wage, but don't give up, don't give out. As Reverend Jackson often says, we have to keep hope alive, and we just have to preach the truth to you. And then we must tell you that God will deliver us if we resist. We must come together, unite. All these different little groups and organizations, got to unite them. And so I want to invite you to join us at Rainbow Push Coalition. We're going to Selma this year to be re-energized, to be refocused, and to unite our struggle where it all started, from Minneapolis to Selma. That's where we're going. Paolo Luzo and James Reeb were killed during the Selma demonstrations, and now we here have Minneapolis, our modern-day Selma. Join us as we begin to resist this oligarchy, as we resist those who are trying to take over our nation. This is our country. We are Americans, and we don't have to prove it to a bunch of rich people that we never see,
Absolutely.
and we don't know who they are. Behind all of this administration is money.
Absolutely.
Money can't beat us. It's more of us than them.
Absolutely. We're the 99%. We're the 99%. Keep hope alive, everybody. Back for the second hour in just a moment.
Keep hope alive.
Reverend Wilson,
Reverend
thank
Jesse
you.
Jackson. For
Yes,
more
ma'am.
information
Thank
on
you.
upcoming shows and guests,
All right.
please visit our website.
Oh boy,
at
thank you.
Talk to you tomorrow.
Yeah. Oh, yes, you will. I promise you will. Daryl.
Okay.
Daryl, are you traveling today? Will you have any time this afternoon to talk about Epstein?
I leave at 4 o'clock. My plane leaves at 4.
Would you be available before then?
Yeah, I'm available before then.
Because I'm just seeing everybody on our chat line wants to talk about Epstein.
Good morning, Zach Roberts.
Zach?
Yeah, hi.
This is Keep Up Alive. We'll be like you in 1 second. Hold on, please.
Zach?
Yes, hi.
How are you, my sweetest? Wonderful hearing your voice. I'm so glad that you are doing well and you didn't get into an entanglement with ICE. Well,
no, thankfully.
Well,
not as far as I know.
I was about to say, wait a minute. I don't know. Maybe I don't know. I don't know. Oh.
Yeah.
You can call
Who?
Good morning.
John
And welcome
Nichols.
John Nichols.
Yeah. He's coming on very quickly.
The views and To speak with Reverend
Hey,
Johnson.
Zach, Daryl, how you doing?
Oh, I'm sorry.
Oh, hey, how you doing?
You know, Daryl Jones from the Transformative Justice Coalition. Okay, hold on, stand by. Hey. Wow, everybody, that's our pastor, the iconic, the anointed Reverend Clay Evans and the Fellowship Missionary Baptist Church Choir. Hold on, everybody, hold on and hold out. Boy, oh boy, we are living in quite a time, quite a time. Let's talk about ICE. Let's talk about the midterms. They say that ICE will be, that they want to station ICE at the polls. And they'll probably be along the way. Now, as we watch this drawdown, at least this stated drawdown in Minneapolis, indeed, Spookion from Minneapolis says, oh, no, 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 they're still here. They might not be as heavy a presence in Minneapolis, but in the surrounding areas, which, you know, in this part of the country, we do farming. That's where they are. They're still abducting people, as she put it. Wow. Think about that. And now comes word from Wired magazine that there are 150 spaces, Jeremy, 150 spaces in the United States where they are deploying street agents and lawyers. And there will be detention centers opened all over the country, like in Texas and Arizona and Georgia. There's even a detention center for 1,500 children that will be opened in Georgia. Children. Who takes children? Is that where these missing children are? Because, you know, we have a lot of children who are missing at the border. And I have to tell you, given what we're seeing with the Epstein files, it just begs a lot of questions. And many of you want to talk about this. Some of you are saying that as awful as what we're watching is, that, you know, that the Epstein files, we're looking at a real distraction. Well, no, I think that everything is just happening at one time. So I want you to reach out to us at 866-594-HOPE, 866-594-4673. Daryl, I want to hear your voice. I want to hear you, Yvonne and Eric. So many of you, and Robert. That's right, Spooky on Sprinkle. I love this name. You know, sending you so much. And Chaparral, call on in. You know you want to. You know you do. And so, yes. So we want to talk with you about ICE coming to a city and town near you. Spookion from Minneapolis. She says, oh no, it's coming to you. Yeah. And we can see that no one is immune. I mean, everybody, they're going after everybody. Indeed, one of President Trump's former lawyers said, well, they're going to come for dissidents too. We see that with Georgia Fort and with Don Lemon. Now, mind you, they're not dissidents. They're just journalists who were doing their work, and they were arrested. Wow, charged with doing their job. So let's talk about this, everybody. It's a tipping point in the 250th year of the existence of the Republic. And I think by the time we're done, we might have grown up a bit. But it's going to be tough. But we can make it through if we just hold on and hold out. Reverend Evans, take us out right here on Keep Up Alive with Reverend Jesse Jackson.
All right. Everything will be all right. All right. How many of you believe it's going to be all right? Do you believe it's going to be all right? All right.
Your opinion.
Thank you for that this morning, Jeremy.
594-HOPE.
You knew I needed that.
We have John Nichols on.
Okay, John.
I'm here.
How are you? You know, we've got attorney Daryl Jones with us, and we have Zach Roberts. Zach I'm going to give you about 7 minutes so you can get in and out. Zach is coming back from Minneapolis, so I'm really excited that he's here with us this morning. Zach, let me know if you have any time this afternoon, because I definitely want to talk about this, because Spooky on Sprinkle who is with us this morning from Minnesota. She said, "Oh, be clear, ICE, they're still here. They're just in the outer areas."
Yeah.
Which is not surprising.
Yeah.
So you can talk to us about all that you have done. And, Zach Roberts has been, John, and I'm sure you know this, he has been Greg Palast, production partner. But, the iconic images that we got from Charlottesville, these were among the pictures of the year. That's right. Yeah. So
I should let you know that I was in Minneapolis much of last week as well.
Are you going to Selma?
I probably will not go to Selma. I have to go with the senator out to California.
Oh, okay.
For some events at Stanford. But much love. Are you going to Selma?
I am going to go.
Oh, fantastic.
Yep.
Oh, my gosh.
Well, I've gone like every other year, but we're going, because Dad last year felt that might be the last time he got down there. And this year he really cannot go.
He physically can't do it. Yeah, I'm so sorry.
Our mother said no. So.
Oh, I know.
So when Mom says no.
Still hoping he can get over to the Rainbow Push office a bit more.
Well,
a few times at least.
It's a little tough, but she's been.
I know.
She's been. Thank you, sweetie. She's been pushing for him to get as much rest as he can.
Right. No, it's true. I mean, look, I trust her.
I hope so.
And I follow her lead.
They've been together 65 years. Can you believe it?
That's just astounding when you think about it.
Oh my gosh.
So many years.
Oh yeah.
But
my
so
father
good.
always tacks on a year. I'm like, oh, you were married this many. She said, no, we've been together. He said, marriage begins before you get to the preacher, and the divorce happens before you get to the courthouse.
So true on both ends.
Yes.
That's one of his great lines. The other one was, as long as there are pop quizzes, there will always be prayer in school.
Yes. Or shoot, just a regular old exam. Oh, Lord, help me, Jesus, please.
So I will tell you, the good Lord works in many mysterious ways, but I always thought that was one of his best lines ever.
Oh, yeah.
I wish there were many.
Well, absolutely, but prayers are said before an exam. Oh, help me. Help me. Oh, man.
Should have studied, but, at least I've got this option.
Oh, my gosh. Okay.
Sure.
And what is it? And Pay B 1830 says, go ICE. Why don't you call in and tell us, your thoughts? We'd love to hear that. And Dave Dowling is up in Canada. He said, are they detention centers or concentration camps? Concentration camps. Seamus Cullerton. Have you been following his case, John? Zach? Attorney Jones? Yeah, I mean, it's amazing. And then, they just came out with him. They're trying to make him a drug trafficker. And, and it's like, 5 months in detention. Now suddenly, he's been here 20 years.
Right. They tend to find things after they've written out their not necessarily legitimate warrants.
What did you say? Oltha Sims, whoever thought the U.S. would be run by a bunch of pedophiles in 2026? Well, I tell you what, my mother would not let me be a Senate page because she always felt these people were awful. She did. Oh, no.
Not wrong.
No, I mean, because it was a sex scandal. When I was in high school. Well, hold on. We're coming up.
Yeah.
Hey, everybody, keep hope alive with Reverend Jesse Jackson. It's a whole lot, isn't it, Jeremy? Do you think that, as we pivot to Zach Roberts, brilliant photojournalist and of course, documentarian, Vigilantes Inc., the best democracy money can buy. He's been reporting for Status Quo News up in Minneapolis. I'm so glad that he's with us this morning. And of course, Attorney Darrell Jones, Transformative Justice Coalition, one of the top voting rights advocates in the nation today, but he's also a former prosecutor. So he brings that to the conversation. Of course, he and Barbara Arnwine, you've got to catch them on WOLDC News every Tuesday at 12 noon Eastern Standard Time. So please get on out there and listen to their show because They do some great, great, great work. Well, I think we'll all be in Selma together, will we not, Daryl? Daryl, Daryl. All right, okay. I got to have an amen. All right, now. Okay, okay. All right. Well, you know what? I've got John Nichols before he goes to church. I've got about 5 minutes for him because he has got to hold open the door and be the greeter at his church. So, John, we've got ICE. Well, they said that they're pulling, well, Tom Homan said they're pulling back. Spooky on Sprinkle, one of our listeners from Minneapolis said, oh, no, they're not. They're just being deployed to the wider areas, which is where they farm, of course. And many people on our chat line this morning are saying, wait a minute, what about the Epstein files? People have not forgotten about that. So they're opening up new detention centers and they're deploying ICE to 150 spaces all over the country. Look, it's a lot. My head is spinning. What? What's the takeaway?
The takeaway is this. For 2 months, agents of the federal government occupied a major American city. And they did so in violent and destructive ways that caused tremendous damage. There were, of course, the detentions and the deportations and the fear that swept through vast neighborhoods of Minneapolis. But there was also the shooting and killings of Renee Good and Alex Cruddy. And there was devastating economic impact on the city. Restaurants that didn't have business, shops that struggled to get by because workers were afraid often to leave their homes and customers were afraid often to come out as well. And so Minneapolis took a huge hit. And the people of Minneapolis responded to that with one of the most extraordinary shows of nonviolent civil disobedience. Not perfect, they didn't do everything right, but they did enough with mass demonstrations, with mutual aid for neighbors who were in trouble, with economic assistance, with just a real committed response that said ICE out, that at the end of the day, the Trump administration has blinked. Now, it's absolutely true that there will still be some ICE presence in Minnesota. Perhaps we don't know because I'm in the trust but verify mode. Let's make sure that they're really leaving Minneapolis and let's see what happens next. But ICE will be in other places in Minnesota and around the United States. And so I think that Ilhan Omar, the congresswoman from Minneapolis and surrounding communities, sums it up very well when she says that what we really should be talking about now is accountability, right? Mm. The federal government owes Minneapolis restitution, economic aid to help it rebuild. That is unlikely to come, quite honestly, in the current moment. But state government is trying to do some things, and we should not let that demand go away simply because Mike Johnson's in charge of the House of Representatives. That should be a part of what we talk about. We should talk about, and this is Ilhan Omar saying, the abolishment of ICE, an agency that just does not begin to do what it's supposed to do, what it supposedly is supposed to do, and in fact does tremendous amounts of damage. And so while this country clearly, has a desire for some immigration law and some enforcement of that law, it doesn't want, the people don't want what they saw in Minneapolis. They don't want that in places around the country. They want fairness and humanity and decency. And so that's the second component. The third thing that Ilhan Omar talks about is impeaching Kristi Noem, the head of the Department of Homeland Security, for all of the lies, for all of the cruelty, for all of the incredible, you could be generous and say bad judgment, or you could say intentional acts of cruelty. And so there are things that we can do, we can be engaged in at this point in talking about how to respond. And also, we should spread the Minneapolis model, this concept of deep engagement in the neighborhoods where people really were and are still being trained to respond with peaceful, nonviolent civil disobedience in ways that challenge what federal agents, masked and armed federal agents, are doing. There are many, many examples from Minneapolis that can be taken to other places and models that can be learned from. Finally, and this is the important thing, one of the many important things, we should be conscious that the President of the United States is spending a lot of his time now talking about the 2026 elections. One of his longtime aides and allies, Steve Bannon, is talking about the prospect of putting ICE agents at polling places across the country. It's not very hard to put the pieces together and say that there is a threat there that we ought to be very conscious of. And so as members of Congress debate how to deal with the Department of Homeland Security, how to regulate ICE, how to deal with the Border Patrol folks and others, there should be a front and center awareness that federal agents should not be dispatched to polling places around the country in the weeks or months before the election, to cities that are in swing states, simply at the president's will. There has to be a consciousness that is a concern on the part of tens of millions of Americans, and Congress ought to be taking that up, Democrats in Congress, but also responsible Republicans who've been critical of the DHS, like Rand Paul and others, so that we can get absolutely clear signals from Congress that ICE should not be dispatched to cities in the weeks and months before the 2026 election, simply because the president wants to put people in places where, frankly, as we've seen from Minneapolis, they do more harm than good.
You know, before you go, what should we be looking at very quickly in about a minute for this? Because we're seeing this massive deployment of ICE all across the country, just in time for the election season, and one of our Spooky on Sprinkle, I love her name. One of our listeners from Minneapolis said, "Look, they're still here. Be very clear. They're at the Whipple Building. They're quieter." So, what's the takeaway?
Well, the takeaway is first, they announced that ICE is leaving Minneapolis. We ought to again be in the trust but verify mode, and I'm not alone in saying that. I think the mayor, the governor, and others have said, we've got to see if this really happens, if they keep their word. But if and when they do substantially withdraw ICE from Minneapolis, that doesn't end the storyline. First and foremost, Minneapolis has taken a very, very hard hit emotionally, structurally, economically. And so there's a lot of rebuilding to do, and we have to be conscious of that. We have to be aware that just because ICE is left, that doesn't mean everything's perfect and everything's going back to where it should be. And again, as people raise the issue, we have to be sure that they actually leave. The second thing, though, is to understand that all of this is a national concern. This is not just Minneapolis. Minneapolis has been heroic. The people of the city have been heroic. The nation nominated them for the Nobel Peace Prize. But the reality is that this is something that's going to be happening in other places, perhaps very soon. And so, again, you take it to the federal level. Democrats in Congress and Republicans who would like to suggest that they are responsible in this regard have to take the lead in making sure that any agreement that is reached in the House and Senate takes into account these concerns about not just the abuses that ICE agents and others commit, but also this fear, this grounded concern that ICE could be used as a tool around the elections. And that just shouldn't be the case. I mean, even if you want to have ICE, even if you want to have CPB, they have defined responsibilities. They shouldn't be, as Steve Bannon has suggested, dispatched to polling places across the country. So there's a lot of, actual practical work that can be done. And when members of Congress are back in their districts this week for their one of their many breaks, people ought to be talking to them about these issues in very specific and very pointed ways so that when they go back to Washington, they don't compromise, as they too frequently have, not just in a debate with the Republicans, but really compromise the basic premises of the U.S. Constitution and our basic voting rights.
John Nichols, The Nation Magazine, sending you so much love. It's always a joy to be with you. I'm glad you caught us. We were able to catch you on the way to church this morning. May God bless you and your congregation and your beautiful family.
Well, and 1,000 blessings and more to you and to everybody on the call. You've got great people on this call who are going to guide folks in the coming minutes through a lot of important discussions. And that's why I value your show so greatly, Bettina.
Well, you're part of it. So thank you so much. We love you. Zach Roberts, thank you so much, John Nichols. Okay, you were up there. When you hear Tom Homan, tell us what you saw, because now Tom Homan has said mission accomplished. We're moving on, and yet, okay, that elicited a giggle from you. What does that mean?
I'm old enough to remember George Bush flying in on an aircraft or flying in on a jet plane, landing, getting out in his cute little uniform, and then in front of a huge banner on a battleship carrier that said mission accomplished in front of it. And then we stayed in Iraq for another 10 to 15 years. And so, I mean, we still have troops on the ground, there's still troops on the ground there. I mean, so let's not imagine for a moment that it really is anything different. Other than, the national media will move on. I mean, I unfortunately had to move on. I'm one of those people. But I'm still covering the story from here, talking to people about what they're seeing on the ground. And, ICE is not leaving. ICE is spreading throughout the country now. When I landed back here in Norfolk, Virginia, where I live, I was saying they now have ICE vehicles, literally ICE on the side and, defending the homeland or whatever it says on the tagline. And they're driving through trailer park communities here in just nearby in Virginia Beach. And so what's going to end up happening is that, as the eyes go off of Minneapolis, they've realized that the bad idea is to do this surge. It looks good for the social media and everything that they want to do. But if they effectively want to continue to kidnap people across the country, put children in camps like they have been doing, they now have 70,000 people. It's been reported 70,000 people under ICE custody or under DHS custody, and so what's going to happen is that we're going to see Minneapolis across the country, but not in the big flashy ways. There's not going to be the standoff points like at Whipple, at the federal building there, and it's going to be so much tougher for people in other communities, like here in Norfolk, to follow these people, follow ICE throughout the city, and kind of call them out like they did in Minneapolis. And so what we're seeing is a complete change of the game, but everything's still staying the same.
Well,
and so that is what basically I think we all need to kind of recognize. How do we deal with this, especially at the same time that still months on our not administration, but our elected officials who are supposed to represent us, whether it be, Schumer or Jeffries or whoever, not only don't seem to care, but they actively seem to want this to continue to happen. I mean, I think we need to come to terms with the fact that Schumer and Jeffries want ICE in the streets and they want this to happen. They just want it in a kinder, gentler kind of way where we can see their faces. And that's never going to happen. That doesn't happen with DHS agents. That doesn't happen with the way things work. And Trump, and even if they sign whatever agreement deal they can get, so they can get money for ICE, it still doesn't mean that they're going to stop wearing masks.
Well,
and that doesn't change the fact that there is no accountability. There's no judicial system that's going to arrest these officers for committing violence in the streets. And so I think that we need to realize that the only people who protect us is us. And so we need to start organizing on the ground immediately, like they did in Minneapolis, across the country. And kind of, I would never say give up on our elected leaders,
But Minnesotans really realized quickly that Jacob Fry, the mayor of Minneapolis, who's this, supposed liberal, progressive, mayor, he loves to be, go to places and be seen in front of activists. And, Governor Waltz, who I think we all thought was like the guy that was, oh, cool, this is the next, I don't know about FDR, but like the next, at least, Obama or something, something a little bit better than what we've had in the past. And both of them not just took a knee, but they licked the boot of federal troops when they came in here. They refused to say a bad thing about them other than a swear word every once in a while. But in closed rooms, they very clearly, took the knee and did whatever they could possibly do to help ICE, including the local law enforcement on that level.
Well, hold on. No, because wait a minute, because you said a lot. I want no, because I think it's important, and I want Daryl to jump in. I only have about 3 minutes left in this segment, but first, Schumer and Jeffries, you said that they need to keep this going. Why?
Well, I think they want to keep this going because I think that I think that there's polling people, whoever it is, for ages the Democratic Party has seemingly, for some reason, the leadership, I'll say the leadership, because obviously there's people like Ilhan Omar and AOC, but the leadership has had this obsession with trying to be tough on immigration because, just like how you remember the Democrats used to be tough on crime, and so they would do things like what Joe Biden did back in the 90s and do monstrously terrible and destructive legislation that Republicans could only dream of ever passing alone. And so that's why we have so many people in prisons. That's why so many people, that have their lives completely destroyed for, having a little bit of marijuana or something like that. I mean, this is the legacy of bad polling numbers, of, bad polling data, basically telling Democrats that they have to be tougher than Republicans on these things, so that they can do the good legislation that they want to do, except they don't end up doing either. And so basically what we get is this horrible immigration system that it continues to be funded by Democrats and Republicans, at least the leadership, and we don't ever solve anything. I mean, I can't stop reminding everybody that Tom Homan, the big villain of all of this, or one of them at least, was awarded by Barack Obama the Presidential Rank Award, for what he did during his term. And so, I think that we need to really look at who we elect and how do we call upon consequences for them when they just not only stand back and allow ICE to terrorize our cities, but they help them in a real active way, like they did in Minneapolis with Waltz and Fry.
Well, when we come back, Attorney Jones, I want you to react to that, because Attorney Jones has also been a prosecutor. And I want you to, and voting rights, we've done so much work, all of us together, on voting rights. Just how will this impact? I mean, and I need us all to interact, Zach Roberts, because it's one thing to talk about Minneapolis. It's one thing to talk about Minnesota. It's another thing to be there. It was one thing to be in. It was one thing to talk about Chicago, but when you were here, my mother told me as they were deploying here, she said, "Get your passport out and keep it with you at all times." I said, "Oh, okay." She said, "No, because they're going to start grabbing people, and if they think you look any kind of way," she said, "it's going to get to Black people. Trust me." And trust me, I present as a Black person. But she said, if they have any questions about you, if they think they can ask a question, that's what they're going to do. And hey, that raid in Chicago was 5 blocks from where I live. Back in just a minute, here on Keep Up Live with Reverend Jesse Jackson.
Oh, yeah. I'm moving on. Sometimes the way seems so very hard, so much so.
Your opinion counts. 1-866.
Ooh, this stuff, you all give me a headache today.
1-866.
Oh my gosh, I feel like my brother Jonathan came off here. He said, "I got to go to church." This is too well, because he, as he said, I've seen some of these Epstein files. He said, you cannot imagine how vile. And I told him, I said, independent media have been covering this. The legacy media have been covering it up, but independent media have been reading through this, and they've been reading through it, and they've been reporting on it. And it is what little bit we've been able to get has been horrifying. It's ritualistic, everybody, and sick. And it's boys and girls, young underage boys and underage women, the girls. It's just been just no one. And then when you listen to when you read what Epstein has said about basically about racial superiority. I mean, no, really, because he was an absolute racist and a supremacist. These are things, Daryl, that no one touches. And you've got to touch it. You've got to talk about this, because I'm gonna tell you now, independent journalists who I've over in Africa who I follow, they're talking about this. It's like my brother made the point. He said this is unmooring European leadership. People are having to resign. They're having to leave public life. In the United States, we're covering everybody. Do you know what that is making us look like?
America is just one big Epstein's Island right now.
My gosh.
That's really, that's what it makes us look like, and it's unbelievable, especially within, I think that, the liberal, kind of academia world needs to really also come to terms with the fact, Noam Chomsky, Steven Pinker, all of these, great minds that people had such great respect for. Summers, Larry Summers, who I think we all none of us had good thoughts about.
Well, Chomsky, Chomsky, Noam Chomsky. You're like, wait a minute, what?
Stand by.
Oh, hold on. Yeah. Oh gosh.
4673.
Hey, everybody! Keep Hope Alive with Reverend Jesse Jackson. It's a whole lot. Of course, I will be taping my show this afternoon. Check me out around 1:00 Central Standard Time. How about that? 2:00 Eastern Standard Time, or even as early as 12 on the Santita Jackson Show YouTube channel. We're here now. I'm glad to be with you today. Sitting here with my wingman, Jeremy Geiger, as we are passing him things to download for me. It's just so much, Jeremy. It's too much. So much is going on. And of course, Zach Roberts, dropping bomb after bomb after bomb. I hope you're coming, brilliant journalist that you are. I really hope that you will think of try and get down to Selma, because that ought to take on a whole different kind of poignancy. I've never actually been for the anniversary. It's a big thing, and just given the attacks on the vote, black people, brown people, indigenous people, everybody. Now, Alex Pretty and Renee goodness gracious, Americans are under attack. So, I hope you'll consider it, but we'll talk about that. But I just before you go any further, I'd like for Attorney Daryl Jones to react to what he has heard. And I want you to know, Daryl, everybody is talking there. I even have, oh goodness, I don't want to, is it Nora Okaneski? Okay, I hope I get it right. She said, when I heard Savannah Guthrie, and was the first broadcaster to host interviews with the survivors of Trump and Epstein, it was not a mystery who and what had done this to her mom. Wow. People really are looking at this Epstein piece, because this is not the first time I've heard this. Thank you, Nora. A lot of people are asking a lot of questions, and they're not conspiracists. That, when you give people the information, they start making connections. No one is dumb. When you thought you could outsmart your parents, we really, really did. And your parents would look at you. Sometimes they'd humor you and they'd act like they were outsmarted. But for the most part, they would be like, you really think I'm stupid? You think I haven't been you? What my father would say, I made you. What are you talking about? So, I mean, Attorney Jones, whew, there is so much that's going on. ICE, they say they're leaving, but they're not leaving. And Zach is going to elaborate on that. They're expanding into almost all 50 states. They're going to open up a concentration camp in Georgia for kids, for children. Daryl, what is this?
There's just so much going on, on the Epstein side of it, as a country, we have seen our institutions, the Congress, we have seen the presidency, we have seen all of these things being challenged. They're all at a all-time low in terms of their approving on their approvability ratings with American people, including the court system. So when we start dealing with this Epstein situation, and we see our Attorney General turning her back on the victims of crime, and our U.S. Attorney's Office not even speaking to these victims of crime to do the interviews to protect us, the people, it does nothing to certainly bolster the faith that we have in those institutions. So it's truly a major issue. There is an interconnectedness with with what's happening with ICE and Customs Border Patrol and their surgeons and their news media gathering tactics to try to pull our attention away, I believe, from what's happening with these Epstein files. But let's be clear, when we're talking about the Twin Cities, St. Paul and Minneapolis, this withdrawal that we're hearing about, we're only hearing, and Tom Holman has only indicated that the change is going from 2,700 agents down to 2,000. That's only a little over 25% the withdrawal. They're not leaving completely. They're still there. So, I think Brother Malcolm X said, progress is not when you put a nice 12 inches in someone and pull it out 6 inches and think that you've made progress, right? The progress is that it shouldn't have been there in the first place. And so that's how we have to treat Minneapolis, St. Paul, and the Twin Cities, and every other city that ICE and the Customs Border Patrol agents shouldn't be there at all. That's where we should be and get them back to their original roles. So we have all of this that's going on, and Zach is 100% correct. I think that when he starts calling on anybody that's doing anything in an elected position to enable Customs Border Patrol and ICE to be able to continue to really, terrorize the American people and the residents that we have here in the country without control, without any structure. I mean, that's where we are right now with regards to what's happening. So, I'm 100% on board with what Zach has laid out, that the distortion, distraction of trying to get away from talk of the Epstein files and what we saw happen with Pam Bondi in front of those members of the committee and talking about what happened. All of that is at play. But we as a people, we must stand up and be heard. And that's why I'm so proud of what the folks in the Twin Cities, Minneapolis and St. Paul, did in responding to the 2,700 agents that were there that were really, terrorizing that city. And it will be the blueprint for what we have occurring across this country. And Santita, I would be remiss if I did not encourage every listener to go to nokings.org. March 28th, we're going to be all over this country, standing up to exactly this, and with the flagship being in the Twin Cities. So, so kudos to Zach. He's right on point, and let's continue to fight.
Zach Roberts, you can take it from there, because I got to tell you, you said a whole lot. Now people are picking up on Schumer and Jeffries, who are both from New York. And the fact is, the Gallup poll shows that most Americans, the overwhelming majority of Americans, are dissatisfied with the country and where we are. And I think that crisis creates an opportunity for us. It doesn't make me anxious. It makes me anxious, sad. It makes me anxiously hopeful for what the work that we can do. I think we can begin to move toward the perfection of the union, right? But now you've got people look at this government, they're trying to push Massey out as he's trying to get to the truth. I mean, there is just so much going on, and it's happening right before our very eyes, really. And so, I mean, what did it feel like in Minneapolis? Because and in Minnesota, because I mean, you have been doing the reporting there, some of the best reporting I've seen, and Spooky on Sprinkle from Minneapolis, one of our listeners this morning, she said, look, they're still there. People are still guarding their blocks because they are not trustful of the government. And quite frankly, she sent me something from the Constitution, goodness gracious, that says that she said from the Declaration of Independence, but when a long train of abuses and usurpations pursuing invariably the same object evinces a design to reduce them under absolute despotism, it is their right, it is their duty to throw off such government and to provide new guards for their future security. People are reading this, particularly in this 250th year of the existence of the Republic, or should I say, of the ending of the Declaration of Independence, because the Republic really came into formation in 1789. What is happening? Because I think something's been unleashed and unleashed in America. What did you see up there? Because below zero people are out there by the hundreds of thousands.
Yeah, I mean, what I saw was kind of as a lifelong progressive, I saw like the potential for this country. You know, I saw at the same time I saw the worst of this country. I saw the best of this country. You see people in the streets caring about their neighborhood. You know, like standing in the freezing cold, like for hours, just for most of everybody that was doing it. You know, hundreds of people out in the streets in the city at any given time, just participating in their community, you know, going to local restaurants, supporting that, you know, I mean, just in a real way, like whether it be economically, whether it be activist wise or whatever, supporting their community. But like, you know, I mean, a lot of them would stand on a corner for 3 hours and never see a thing. You know, I mean, so like, it wasn't like the kind of, you know, well, you know, there's always the activist who's like, I need the action. I need to, you know, be out there doing something. I need to be, you know, tipping over the trash bins or whatever, you know, whatever the thing is. But most of these people are, you know, just, you know, like just not, I don't want to say just moms. I never want to say that. Mm-hmm. But, you know, they're not activists. They're not, you know, they're, as I always want to harp on this, is that they're not being funded by national, you know, big government sources. MoveOn.org, all these organizations, I don't know why I harp on them, but like, all the big nonprofits are nowhere to be seen. And I think it's probably for the best, because I don't think that they could do anything or would do anything to help. But it's just people helping people in the city, and it's amazing. And then at the same time, you have, you know, it's pretty clear that most of the ICE agents are from out of town because they don't know how to walk in the snow or be in the cold or.
Oh,
they see all those videos that came out early on about them slipping on ice, where it's just like, that's how I knew that they were from out of town. They don't know how to walk on. They're not from Chicago. They're not from North. You know, it's a mixed line because we all know how to walk on ice. You do tiny little steps and you go across. And so it has been this amazing thing to watch people, you know, come together and, you know, and even in the guise of, you know, as I said before the break, and even under the guise of being just unbelievably, the disappointment in people's voice when they're talking about their, like, especially Governor Walz, like, on how he just backed down at every opportunity, never took a chance. Even when he called up the National Guard was nowhere to be seen. They were visually in the background over at Federal Whipple while local law enforcement beat the ever-loving out of protesters at a protest when they were just handing out sex toys. And you can see an article at BC.News. I have a whole piece about it, and so I think that it's really coming to head where you have a lot of the kind of like, I don't want to say this, you know, like normie liberals, you know, like people who, you know, maybe they would come out for the Women's March and then never really do anything else. Or maybe they would just be like, well, I'm quietly progressive. I don't go to Chick-fil-A, but I'm not, I'll vote for whoever, vote blue no matter who kind of thing. You see this radicalization slowly happening in their voices and their eyes. I mean, like talking to people from a month ago when I was first there and just recently last week when I was there, it's the anger. I would ask them, like, how do you feel about, the fact that law enforcement is not helping in any way, shape, and form? And it's just like, well, early on it was, well, I think their hands are tied. They can't really do anything. And then actively watching them beat and arrest peaceful protesters just for existing across the street from the federal building. I think that they're getting radicalized in a real way. And that, the rest of us, like Black Americans, do this for ages, that you can't necessarily trust your local law enforcement. And journalists know this, because we get beaten on a regular, tear gas by them. But it's so, I mean, it's going to be incredible to see if and how that changes, one of America's largest cities and, kind of a progressive stronghold within America in Minneapolis, and see how and if that changes, the way we look at law enforcement. Because, I mean, ICE is law enforcement. They do arresting duties, whatever. There's always this conversation. They're not law enforcement. They are. And unfortunately, they shouldn't be, but they are. And it is, it's going to be, I think that when that comes to the rest of the country, it's going to be, I think that it's going to be shocking what it changes in America, that people see what was happening on a regular basis on the kind of I don't want to say this in such a derogatory way, but the comfortable liberals that exist in America that don't get active and don't participate, but they're just, liberal. They don't care if you're gay. They don't care, race, that kind of thing, but they don't get out in the streets. They don't get active in their communities. I think it's going to have a real shock in this country. And like you're saying, I think that one can hope that it changes things for the best. I just don't know if it's going to happen quick enough before. I'm a little dark on this country right now. If it's going to happen quick enough for the elections and for not only 2028 but 2026, or just kind of saving the soul of our nation. If we allow this to stand for so long, we like to at least we used to like to celebrate that, we may have had slavery, but we were the first nation to, we were a nation that we freed the slaves. Like that's a big thing. That's a big thing that American, we're very rah-rah proud about, which as we should be. But as we, realize that we're now, 70,000 people are in concentration camps in this country because of their supposed immigration status. And the legal system, I've been watching just completely fail across the board on doing anything about, giving real due process to these to people who, if you live in America, if you are existing within America's borders, the Constitution stands for you, whether or not you're an American citizen or whether you're just a tourist or whether you're a undocumented immigrant. That's a long-held legal belief, I believe. That's what I've been told, and it doesn't seem to be actually happening. I mean, due process is out the window, and you can just be deported. I mean, the five-year-old little boy who was kidnapped by ICE, and then him and his father was shipped to Texas before the rest of his family was even informed or even knew, or his community knew. And and so the activist community, the great immigration groups that are up in Minneapolis have to scramble to figure out where anybody is, and they're all overworked and probably getting burnt out, I would imagine. And so I don't know how much longer this can kind of stand before we have some sort of breaking point. I think that they're right that Trump is they have some level of, they know what they're doing when, okay, we have to announce at least a pullback, because the polling numbers are going wrong and people are realizing what this monstrous immigration system we've had that is supported by both parties in America for decades, how terrible it is.
Well, Attorney Darrell Jones, got a couple minutes for you before we go to break. And let me send much love to our friends down in Brazil, Power Mac. And I'm Santita Jackson. You just heard Zach Roberts. I just wrote that there. And Attorney Daryl Jones. And of course, I got my wingman, Jeremy Geiger. Say hey, Jeremy. Brazil.
Hey,
What's up?
Brazil.
What's up? Okay.
Hola.
Attorney, Attorney Daryl Jones. What say you?
You know, Santita, it's tough to follow Zach because he's so accurate with everything that he's laid out. So one of the things that we've got to remember is that what's happening with regards to the immigrant issue across our country is that, not only are residents, right, being rounded up and put into these camps, but a lot of times, in the vast majority, there's no due process that's occurring, so you don't necessarily know who they have in there. You have hundreds of children every day that are going into these concentration camps, and they're being placed in deplorable conditions, and there's no civil action being taken against them. So we have all of this that's occurring. We also have more warehouses that are being purchased across this country to store more of the individuals that they're gathering up, all without due process, all without being given an opportunity to be released on any type of bail pending their hearings. It's a major issue that's going on, and as Zach did, I think, correctly state out that you're going to see some changes as the people rise up and as the administration realizes that their ideas are not popular and are costing them politically. So we've got to be certain that we continue to push on all of our elected officials, particularly those members of Congress right now that are considering continued funding for Homeland Security, that we need to call them at 202-224-31 and 21 and tell them not to give DHS another dime until they have accountability and these issues are straightened out across our country.
Everybody, I hope you'll meet me on AM 950 Radio, the voice of progressive Minnesota, 6 to 8 a.m. every morning. But of course, I'll be taping this afternoon on the Santita Jackson Show YouTube channel. And meet us at Rainbow Push for the Push Forum every Saturday from 10 to 11. Zach, we got to get you in here for that so that you can tell us what is going on, not just in Minneapolis, but all over. You do such great investigative work. And of course, Attorney Daryl Jones. Everyone, we got to get registered to vote. We are in the 2026 election cycle. Vote.org, vote411.org, 1866 our vote. You can contact all of those entities and find out if you're still registered. When you are voting, if you have a challenge, 1866 our vote. You need to call them and do not leave the polls until they have resolved your issue. They will do that. Going to get some closing thoughts right here on Keep Up Alive with Reverend Jesse Jackson. Back in just a minute.
Coming up, we'll have closing thoughts.
I'm sending you all so much love today. I'm so glad that we were up on that we've been up talking today, and you all could see the show, see us in here. And I'm so glad to be with you today. We're going to be turning these shows into podcasts, and then we're going to go into some of our old shows, Jeremy, and where you will hear Reverend Jackson's interviews. We're excited about that. We're going to marry some of those interviews. We're going to let you hear a lot of those interviews with Michael Jackson, with Barry Bonds, with Barack Obama, with Joe Biden, Senator Kerry, the president of Mexico, Mr. Fox, when he ran into the buzzsaw with some insensitive remarks about Black people. Rodney King, just weeks before he passed away, we spoke with him. Abraham Bolden, the first African-American Secret Service officer in the White House. Charles Ogletree, the famed legal scholar from Harvard. We have a lot of gems, and we have a lot of people who are unknown who really brought a lot of great ideas to us. Of course, Greg Palast has been part of the show, and Zach Roberts, and Jim Narakis and Janine Jackson from Fairness and Accuracy in Reporting, Norman Solomon, boy oh boy, and Jeff Cohen, boy oh boy. We have a lot of folks, a lot of people, and you make it all possible. And so thank you so much for all that you all have done. And I've had my wingman. How long have we been together, Jeremy? We've been together a long time because
Yeah,
we have had Lee, of course, Ryan from Greenville fills in for you. Marlon, we've had a wonderful family here.
Yeah.
I started off with Stacy Wright, who was my associate producer, and boy oh boy, and Alana Ford, who passed away last year. Well, actually, a year and a half ago. Wow.
Bob Fukuda.
Bob Fukuda, Mark, who passed away.
Which Mark?
Crazy Mark.
I don't know if I know that.
Yeah, you too. Yeah, you too. Oh boy. Oh boy. You remember Mark. And I just, oh boy, it's just we've had some people who it breaks my heart to think of some of the people who were missing. And but you know what?
Who was the one that passed away? He was on the show almost every week.
Oh, Frank Watkins.
Frank
Watkins. Kevin Gray. We've had some wonderful, wonderful people who've been with us, and it's just. But you know what? We've had them, so for that I'm grateful. How much time are we going to have when we get back?
Not long. Just a minute.
Oh wow! Well, you guys, Zach, let me know if you have any time this afternoon.
Sure. Yeah, I should. Yeah.
Okay. What's a good time, do you think?
Let's see, the 3 Eastern time.
Okay, then put me down for 3:00 Eastern time.
Okay.
Put me down for that. Daryl, I'm gonna get you before you get on this plane or wherever you're going, because several people have brought to my attention we are in election season already.
Mm-hmm.
And what we have seen in Chicago and Minneapolis is a forerunner of what we're going to see all across the country. Just like they killed Ahmaud Arbery, way out in the bushes. What's going to happen in these areas that are not under the spotlight?
Right. Yeah.
So stand by. 1 minute.
You'll have about 50 seconds.
Under. Okay.
Jesse Jackson at KeepHopeAliveRadio.com.
Hey, everybody. Thank you for tuning in. The Santita Jackson Show YouTube channel. Stay right here. We're going to be taping this afternoon. But, of course, we're going to Selma. Rainbow Push is going to Selma. And we're going to have our Saturday morning forum at the historic Brown Chapel. So, please, come on up. Come to Selma. That's where the action will be. And, everybody, may God continue to bless you. And remember always to keep hope alive. Let me see. People got active today. All right, you guys, I want to see you all this afternoon. Yvonne and Lorraine and Chapearl. Chapearl's got it. Boy, you've been all Mark Lovelace. You remember Mark Lovelace?
At www.keephopealiveradio.com.
Mark Lovelace, he was a renowned gay activist. He was tall. He had a little bit of a jerry curl. And he did the phones.
I wasn't here for that.
Yeah, you were, actually. Yeah, because you've been here a long time. He died right before...
Before Alana?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Huh.
Yeah. Because I think Chapearl, didn't Mark pass away like in 2018? Oh, you were way here.
I don't remember Alana doing the phones.
That's because she's pretty. Okay, so yeah, I had to bust him out, you guys. Yeah. And see, and his stuff even fell. That's all. He can only remember her because she was really pretty. That's
no, and the person after Alana.
No, like I said, all you can remember. You said I can only remember Alana. I know she had that effect. like, give me a break. There were other people who've done the phones, Jeremy, and you've been here 1,000 years. We've been doing the show 22 years. Oh, yeah. I'm sorry, Zach. I had to bust him out. I couldn't help it. Oh, look, are you serious right now? Get out of here. Of course you remember. Yeah. Oh, I remember Alana. Everybody remembers Alana. Get out of here. Everybody. She was gorgeous. Bless her heart. And she was diagnosed with cancer, and it moved with a quickness with her. But she was with us, and she was quite ill for quite some time, and she just kept on working. Was going to chemo and coming to work. Chemo, it just ravaged her so that she was doing chemo every day. Yeah, they were. And so we send our love to Alana. And we grew up together. Had known her a lifetime, bless her heart. Oh, so it's a lot. But so I'm going to see you at 3 your time, 2 my time. I'm very excited about that because I want you to stretch on out and you'll be by yourself talking about this because you know what's interesting. I'm still talking to everybody here. Hey, Effie, I love you, sweetie. You know what's amazing because I'm still talking to the audience here. People read this Constitution and Americans really do take our freedoms very seriously, even if we don't know them explicitly.
Yeah.
We've always resisted monarchy, always, and oligarchy, always. That is in the DNA of the country. Just, it is. And so when you go against that, it's like, wait a minute. You know, when you sit oligarchs on top of Americans, you know, one of my fathers, he said about someone, he said, well, we might not be very bright for long, but we're not stupid always. We get it. He said, no, eventually, you know, we get it. We never would have survived had we not. That's why being ahistorical is so dangerous because we're not clear on the movements that took place right during the, you know, going into the Gilded Age, the Great Depression. We've always had socialists, communists, anarchists, people they call anarchists, but people who said no, you're reneging on the promise of America.
Yeah.
And Americans have always pushed back, everybody. Americans have always done that. And you're going to see more of that. You know, I mean, because that's what got Viola Liuzzo down to Selma. That's what got Reverend James Reeb down to Selma. That, you know, just shocked the conscience. You know, when they saw these peaceful people trying to get across a bridge and you saw them getting beaten to death. No, that didn't work. Thank you, sweetie. That didn't work. It just didn't work. And what's happening here, it's just like Alex Preddy. And when you saw, I was talking to someone in Minneapolis that day. I think they had just shot Alex Preddy within the hour. And he said, oh, well, they just shot someone else. I said, really? He said, oh, yeah. But then I went on social media and they were showing the video. I called this guy back. I said, this is bad.
Yeah.
He said, no. I said, no. I said, this is horrible. I said, this is an execution. So, you know, so here we are. And, you know, and this time is made for you. I'm going to get you some more information about Selma because we're bringing a group from Minneapolis down to Selma.
Oh, really? Okay.
Oh, yeah. Because, you know, they are ready to go to work. Everybody knows that this is not over.
Yeah.
And now they're taking this. Now, you know, you're shocking the conscience of white Americans. See, this is not surprising to Black Americans. This is, you know, when we hear everybody, we're like, well, welcome to America. This is kind of how we get down here. That's okay because eventually you get it.
Yeah.
You know, but you know what, we have to grow up in our politics.
It shouldn't have to happen every 5 years, though. I mean,
it shouldn't.
Like, it's wild to think that like George Floyd was only 5 years ago, and we're pretending like it was 40. You know, and it's.
Well, you know, we thought we were done. and we're not.
Yeah.
So the did you see Ken Burns' documentary on the founding of the country?
I haven't yet. No.
I promise you, it is something worth seeing. Number one, Jeremy and Zach, you see the multiracial moorings of the country. The country was never a white country. Number one, it was, and the indigenous people tried to reach accommodation with the white settlers. The white settlers just were avaricious and Western in their thinking and decided to take the country from them, which was awful. I mean, because even our Declaration of Independence and Bill of Rights, our Constitution is based on their laws, how they handle things, because they were democratic. They were Republican minded. These were people who came from monarchies. They didn't know what they were talking about.
No.
So there's that. But that, we always had, since the beginning, you had Africans over here because Africans were brought over with the Spaniards. And there is also archaeological evidence that Africans, have traveled across the oceans. So, there's a lot that I think that we have to we're going to have to go up in our politics and look at. But I cannot wait to have you talk about this because, I knew there was more to this. I knew it. When they made that announcement, I said, they're not done. There's no way. I said, they're going to go out to the farm. They're going to go out to the hinterlands.
Yeah. I landed and I saw a video of them here in Virginia Beach. I mean, like now that the governor is Democrat, I'm pretty sure that Youngkin had a deal with them to basically keep ICE out of the state in a real way.
Mm-hmm.
And like, it's not something I could report on, but I mean, like, it's pretty obvious that something was happening.
Oh yeah.
And now that it's Bamberger, it's suddenly I think we're gonna have a surge to some level here in the state because
of course
it's got to go after whoever. It's just about revenge. It's not even about immigration or anything like that. It's about personal, petty bullshit, which is, it doesn't make it any better or any worse, but
no.
Yeah.
No, I mean, and people need to understand this is not about Democrats and Republicans. Everybody sees them in it, and they are. I mean, Thomas Massey is under the Republican banner, and does he vote with them most of the time? Absolutely, but they're on some basic issues of principle. He has moved away, and so did Marjorie Greene. And you hear it. People are like, wait a minute, I didn't sign up for this. And I welcome that. I welcome that.
I wrote a piece for VSU.News. Try to send it to you about how I'm happy that she's breaking because of MTG quit and whatever, but this idea that we should even give credit to the people that agree with Trump's in fact Thomas Massey is a right-wing loon libertarian, and the reason just because you agree with Alex Jones on something or Thomas Massey on something doesn't mean that we're actually agreeing on it.
Well,
I mean, he just doesn't think there should be a large enough federal government to do ICE raids. It is not that he cares,
But I can disagree with him on some things. But where I agree with him, I agree. See, and that's where and that's where we differ. See, I don't come straight down the line with liberals on a lot of things because I'm from the church, and it's just the difference between me and, say, a lot of other people from the church who would be considered conservative is that I do not impose my value system or what I will and will not do on you. I'm not going to do that. And I believe in being compassionate because I think that people come from a lot of places. But I agree with libertarians on a lot of things and disagree with them on a whole lot of other things. I was at the Democratic convention, I think in 2012, when they agreed to pull God off of their platform. I walked out the convention.
Yeah.
That was offensive to me. you know. And the thing is, that's just, and the thing is, I'm tired. I'm sorry that my brother was about the only Democrat at that national prayer breakfast. How are you going to sit in Congress with people and you say that you are Christian or you are religious and you're not going to talk to the people? You're just going to give them that platform. That's crazy. That is absolutely crazy.
I agree with your brother being there, but I also can understand why you wouldn't go in particular to the National Prayer Breakfast, which has its, legacy in the extraordinary far right.
But that's not the way. That's not how they started, though.
Yeah,
they didn't start that way. But you're not going to move them. You're not going to move them if you're not there. You're just not.
I have obviously I'm not a I have a strong belief that what we need to do is what Donald Trump did in 2016, which is reach the real base of the progressive or like the left, as opposed to trying to reach out to the right. And like we can do that in some levels. We're going to be hopefully reasonable minds within the imagined centrist right that I don't believe actually exists, because if you vote for Trump, you're not a centrist. But I believe that we should focus our full efforts on reaching out to, the pro-Palestine movement, the progressives. Those are the people that will turn out to vote every single time for Democrats and for whoever, but not, I don't think we should be wasting like money or resources or whatever reaching out to the especially the people that have taken over the prayer breakfast.
Well, what I have to tell you. Well, and I hear you because let me tell you, the people who voted for Reverend are the people he registered to bring into the party, who felt, and who quite frankly been ignored. But I have to tell you, as a Black person, I cannot afford to exclude anybody. Wherever I can find, because I'm just telling you how we've survived for 400 years. Because we've had to make accommodation with slave masters, and that ain't been comfortable. And we had children by them, and all of that, and put the children in slavery inside the house, so I got to figure out with people. I've got to figure out with people. Okay, now where can we work together?
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, I got to figure that out.
Yeah. I think that the story about how I gotta jump in a minute.
Of course.
But I think the story about how when Martin Luther King was he was arrested and he was heading to a jail outside of Atlanta, basically where he was most certainly going to be lynched.
Yeah.
And so Daddy King called. This is a story that like Greg has told. I've had it confirmed and everything like that. But that Daddy King called. Nixon, who they were friends. I mean, they were like genuine friends.
Well, because he was a Lincoln Republican. He was a Republican. Yeah.
And so he called him and said, "No, I can't do anything because it's not, wasn't politically expensive, whatever." And then he called RFK, who also wasn't exactly in that moment wasn't a great guy. He had just been working for the anti-communist, show trials and shit like that. But like he changed that, and it's just like I don't know. It's one of those. I think that in this moment, obviously, we don't like shut the doors completely to people changing, But I think that what we really need to do is, what we really need to do is, you can just see like Schumer and Jeffries, like the Democratic Party is not even recognizing the existence of the left in America, and they're going to keep losing. If they don't get out that vote. I mean, Donald Trump won by pulling in the far right that never voted before.
Well, he also got some other people. And the thing is, remember, Donald Trump ran in a context. Hillary had the mainstream Democrats. Bernie, who no one expected to do anything, grabbed the progressives. Donald Trump took what was left. His original plan, because what he did do was go meet with black business persons all over the country in the year leading up to his run. He said, "What do you want?" Because he has relationships with people. Well, he took, and Roger Stone said it of all people. He said, he took the low-hanging fruit. He said, "That's my disappointment," because he could have busted the whole system, and he could have.
Yeah.
So, let me tell you something. I'm not in love with anyone. I don't do my politics that way. What I do is I try to figure out. I've got things I need to get done, and that's it. Because it ain't about love for me. It's about figuring out who's going to work with me on this.
Yeah.
If
I call it's triage democracy.
I got to figure it out. I mean, and that's that's it. I mean, and I have my progressive principles, and I'm going to push them. And my brother hasn't abandoned them because he's the co-chair of that National Prayer Caucus. He said they know where I am and they understand it. But the thing is, I know that there's a reason that my father could relate to Reagan. He could relate to even Nixon. We went in my grandmother's house and saw he had invited my father's mother and her husband to the inauguration. My mother said, "Wow," because he tried to win Reverend over, but my father said, "I'm not for sale." Boom.
Yeah.
But to be hostile to people, I can't afford that.
I don't think you need to give them the like. I think that's right. That's where you don't give them the visual. That's anyway. I really have to.
But no, but we'll talk. I'll see you at 2. I'm 2 my time, 3 your time.
Yeah.
All right.
100%.
Okay. All right, sweetie. Okay. Bye-bye. And you'll get more of that this afternoon. See, we're going to be talking more this afternoon, but I'm sending you all so much love. But yep, that's how I kind of do things, everybody. I try to work out the relationships where I can. Dr. King, after the Montgomery bus boycott, was invited to give the prayer at Reverend Billy Graham's evangelical crusade, which was at the Lincoln Memorial. And that was a huge, huge thing. I mean, my father's had those kinds of events in his life too. And Billy Graham said, you can be part of this and you could become the biggest preacher of the age. My father got a similar offer maybe 30 years later. Maybe it might not have been that long, might have been 10, 15. They kept coming after him. And this is someone who was holding segregated crusades. But he knew that Billy Graham had reach. And if number one, as a Christian, you don't turn people away. And he said, well, okay, I'll be there. And Reverend Graham talked to him because he said, if you just abandon this civil rights thing, we can go places. He said, absolutely not. That's it. It's just, that's it. That's all. That's it. That's all. And we have to continue to push, and you have to talk to people. You cannot be afraid to take the fight into the ring. Just remember that. You've got to be willing to stand on principle and not be afraid of your foes. I don't agree with progressives on everything. Be very, very, very clear. And the Bill Clinton coalition, Ashley, was the Jackson coalition. Everybody predicated their successful Democratic campaigns on Jesse Jackson. Obama. That was the Jackson campaign, period. Because Reverend 40 plus years ago, I saw it because it happened at my dining room table. They said it's going to be a majority minority nation. And the fact is, you're not going to be able to win moving forward in American politics unless you have coalition politics, unless you bring everybody together. And that has been the case for everybody. So that's all right. Well, Billy Graham, was Billy Graham, and I get it. That's why I'm saying I'm clear, because the big people came to Reverend Jackson also, including the Republicans. All of them came to him. And Democrats have wanted to water him down. First of all, Democrats never wanted him. How about that part? So please don't tell me. They absolutely did not want Reverend, and they treated him that way. Reverend had not had a seat at the Democratic Convention from 2004 until 2024, for 20 years. And the seat that he had at that convention was his wheelchair seat. He didn't have a seat in 2008, in 2012, 2016, 2020. Those were all Democrats who he was responsible for putting in office. I ain't mad at you. Isn't that what Tupac says? I mean it. Da-da-da-da-da. I ain't mad at you. I am not mad. But please, later for friendships. Politics is about relationships and how I can figure out how I can get what it is that I need from you, with you. Next. That's all. Ba-dum. I'll see you all this afternoon, I guess around 12 Central Time and 2 Central Time. We're going to be recording, getting some shows out the way. Love you, love you, love you. Bye-bye. Thank you for being with me this morning. And like and share the show. Like and share, like and share, like and share. Love you, love you, love you. I'll see you in a little bit. We're going to be talking about voting. Voting is on the menu. I'm going to see if I can get some people together to talk about Epstein. You want to do that? Yeah. Okay. All right, Yvonne. I love you, girl. Are you going to come down? I wouldn't be surprised if you get that big old moving with that trailer of yours. I mean, that that mobile home, and come down to Selma. Let me know if you're coming. Let me know. Love you all. Love you all. Love you.